Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Rapid Recap here inside Nebraska. Before we get going, I encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, get all of these videos dropped directly in your feed. With me as always is Tim Verghese. I'm Zack Carpenter, and Tim, 34-3, Nebraska rolls. I had my score prediction was 45-3, so I was a little bit off, but pretty close. Also, bold prediction that Nebraska would allow less than 100 yards of total offense. Didn't quite happen. Northern Iowa came out, they're scrappy from the start. They had a 15-play or 12-play?
10-minute drive.
Yeah.
To start the game. Yeah.
Yep. They set the tone that they want early, but then Nebraska, they held them to a field goal still, and Nebraska sort of took back the pacing and rhythm. Very efficient tonight. First three drives of the game. 8 plays, 75 yards, 7 plays, 75 yards, 4 plays, 80 yards, all 3 touchdown drives. Almost went for the third week in a row, almost went a perfect 3 for 3 with Dylan Raiola leading the 2-minute drive. And then just a miscommunication with Isaiah Nair on a back shoulder throw, and then just a simple mistake by Dylan on the 4th and 3 play to Janier Bonner, backing up and throwing off the back foot and across his body when there was protection for him to step up. But just minor mistakes, honestly. You kind of like seeing that in a game like this where correctable mistakes happen and doesn't cost anything, and then you can just, you need to work on little things like that. So all in all, very successful night of what you wanted. What were your biggest takeaways or initial thoughts about tonight?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I think is again, you get a game like this, a game where they played sloppy on defense. They threw a pick in the second half. Defense or offense even kind of sputtered in the second half, and you still came out and Nebraska won by 31 points, covered the spread against an FCS opponent.
Depending on where you got the spread at, it closed at 31.5, so it was close, but anyway.
But with previous staffs too, it's like, this is a game where Nebraska, maybe limps out of here with a close win or maybe even a loss. But here it's like they had a pretty decisive win despite a lot of mistakes.
You think about North Dakota 2 years ago.
Which is what you want. Like, what you want to be able to go from a dominant win like this, and then tomorrow, because it's a short week, tomorrow they're going to go into the film room, and this defensive staff specifically is going to be able to coach the team hard. Like, hey, tackling is a real issue right now. Tackling in space, getting punched in your mouth by a big back and not being able to bring them down. That's a real issue right now. It's something that needs to get fixed. Defensively, I think that there's a lot of adjustments to be made. The front was a little disappointing. Obviously, no Jamari Butler tonight, so how much of an impact, I think his impact was felt tonight. No Mekhi Bear in the first half. How much just they not having those two today, how much that affected the defense. But I think a lot to improve defensively, offensively. Really efficient in the first half. Obviously, Dylan, again, if you want to get an interception, his first interception out of the way, what better way to do it than up by multiple scores on an FCS opponent when it's your last basically attempt of the game of just let's just throw a bomb up there. And he took complete ownership of it. Jalen Lloyd on his end also took ownership of it. So both guys just kind of okay, we're working on it. That's something
it's accountability off.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it was my mistake. No, it was my mistake. I want to take more accountability than you. I want to take more accountability than you.
Yeah, but that's, I don't know. You come out of this just overall hey, they won the game. They held them to, despite gaining 300 yards. They scored on the first drive, and then they didn't score again. They didn't even really come close to it. So you take the positives out of this, but it's a short week, and they got to turn around and get ready for a 3-0 Illinois coming in.
Yeah, you only allow 3 points, so it's it might sound like we're nitpicking, but Northern Iowa did move the ball a little bit better than you would want even after that first drive. They first possession in the third quarter, down 21-3, and they drive and get near the red zone, and then Malcolm Hartzog has that big interception on a horribly overthrown ball, but it doesn't matter. He snagged it inside the 5-yard line. I believe it was at the 4, trying to the 19. And fun fact is that is Nebraska's first red zone interception that they've intercepted since October 15, 2022 against Purdue.
Damn.
Who did that? Malcolm Hartzog in the end zone on Purdue's first drive of the game. It was a weird streak. It was the nation's worst streak of not having a red zone interception caught. It was going in the Colorado games with 65 pass attempts for the opponents inside the red zone. Is there such a random thing that I caught? It was on the betting lines, the different facts that they throw at you. It was just one that stuck out. That's interesting. I don't know. I don't know if it tells anything. I'm just kind of rambling about that one point because I find it interesting. I wanted to bring it up again, but and then I had it written out that it was a third straight game winning the turnover margin. And then that interception happens, so they wind up finishing 1-1 in the turnover margin. So they're plus 3 now, ratio 5-2, 5 takeaways, 2 turnovers. They had gone over 10 quarters of action and over 150 minutes of game time without a turnover since the 10:48 mark of the second quarter against UTEP with Dante Dowdell's fumble. Ever since then, all the way up until Dylan Raiola's interception with 10-something to go in the fourth quarter of a blowout, they hadn't turned it over, which is incredible, I think, compared to last year.
For sure. Again, like just efficient offense and clean offense. And again, like the mistakes happen and you're like, whoa, but like the 2 mistakes all year pretty much. Like it's been two turnovers all year. You take that so far, but again, like Illinois is coming in and conference play starts, from the coaching staff down to Dylan to the rest of the players. It's like, okay, the real season starts now. Like every single one of these games matters a whole lot than these last 3 did.
Yeah, you could tell the emotional release after the Colorado game, and then you could just sense like this was just like, all right, a business as usual, all business / business as usual game for Nebraska, because it's like, okay, got it done with, and Dylan is already talking about like, yeah, I'm not really going to celebrate this one. Northern Iowa played hard. They tested us, but such a short week.
Yeah, they're back in it tomorrow. Normally Sunday's a rest day, but they're back in it tomorrow.
Yeah, and we all remember last year the Illinois game after getting absolutely stomped by Michigan and completely embarrassed by Michigan. Matt Rule held the fully live practice where they ran 96, 97 plays the day after a physical beatdown against Michigan. That was a risky thing, we all know. It could have gone one of 2 directions. And if this program does wind up rising from the ashes of being a dormant program into what we think it could be and has the special type of season we think
what Rule wants it to be,
have, and what Rule wants this program to be, we're going to be looking back at that moment as the thing, or as the turning point, the inflection point of when things started to shift around here. And it could have very easily gone the other way. So you have that storyline going into that game, but again, like you said, it's virtual certainty that's going to be a top 25 matchup. Nebraska was ranked number 23 in the AP top 25 coming into today. They take care of business. Illinois was essentially ranked 26. They were the top in the others receiving votes category. They had 101 votes, and Northern Illinois was number 25 with 114 votes. So then Boston College was number 24. They get beat at number 6 Missouri. And even though that's not a bad loss, it's I hate using the term good loss, so I'm not going to do that. No loss is a good loss, but they'll probably drop out. And then number 20 Kansas State 20 Arizona got blown out by number 14 Kansas State on Friday night. So those 2 teams are likely dropping out. Bump Nebraska probably to 21, 22 maybe 21. And then Illinois is going to be at 24, 25. So the top 25 matchup between Nebraska and Illinois that you did not know you wanted, that you did not know you needed, and that I shouldn't say nobody, but I know you didn't predict it to be a top 25 matchup. I didn't. Jansen, did you predict it to be a top 25 matchup?
I did.
Yeah, yes, he's saying yes. So there's one person in this entire on this entire beat who predicted that to be top 25. Mike Schaefer is always like on that actually at 247. He might have. I don't know, but that just seems like a random fact where he probably brought that up at some point. Like I could see it being a top 25 matchup. I'm not throwing shade. I'm actually being honest. He probably did say that because he has like the smaller random facts and predictions where it's like, oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, Schaefer said something about that earlier in the year. Not to drone on about that. Top 25 matchup against Illinois. What are your early preview, thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, like just interested to see which Nebraska we get. I think I expect this team to just carry on business as usual 3 weeks in a row where they've approached with this like business-like mindset, and it's like, okay, can this carry on over into conference play when the margins are much smaller? When like in the last 3 weeks, it's like within the first 3-4 offensive drives, it's like, okay, this one's over. Like Nebraska's got a sizable lead. They're not really taking their foot off the gas. They have the last 2 weeks, but it's a sizable enough gap where it's like they're not coming back. Next week, you start a little slow, you get into it. Like, I want to see what this team does when they deal with some adversity. We haven't seen that yet. We might see it next week. If not next week, we'll see it in 2 weeks against Rutgers. And I'm expecting this Nebraska team we'll learn a lot about this team when they see adversity and kind of face like a deficit or, like a close game for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, Illinois did they beat Kansas at home?
They beat Kansas.
At home, right?
At home.
At home, that was a ranked Kansas team, like 19 or.
Yeah, but it was a Kansas team that after last week, after their loss yesterday, a team that's not as good as we might have thought going into the year.
Did Kansas lose today?
They lost.
Who'd they lose to?
I forget.
Yeah, you
It's
forget.
been a day, but they did
Kansas
lose. But
lost to a
Kansas did
team.
lose. Kansas.
They lost to
UNLV.
yeah,
They lost
Friday
to UNLV
night,
Friday night.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's right.
we were in Des Moines. That's why we. Yep.
Okay, so
But
you're
yes.
trying to come up with a team that they lost to is UNLV. It's such a random matchup too.
Yes,
It feels like UNLV versus Kansas, but.
But yeah, curious to see kind of which Illinois we get, which Nebraska we get, again for Nebraska, like it was kind of an out of character game for the defense. I felt like the tackling in space has not really been an issue under Tony White. Guys were taking bad angles, eyes were bad. Like I don't know if it was just like the first time really facing a physical run team that gave them and Nebraska everything they wanted. They put everything out on the field today against Nebraska. And so the positive there is they gave Nebraska everything they had, and they still lost by 31.
Yeah.
The negative there is they did gain 300. An FCS team did come in here and gain 300 yards.
That makes my bold prediction look even dumber. About
and they just kind of struggled like against the run today. So it's like that's something that Brett Bielema, physical football coach, always has a sound football program. Like he's going to watch that on film. He's going to try and exploit as much of that as he can.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm interested to see the line, what Nebraska will be favored by, because they obviously will be favored. Probably, I'm guessing they'll be 8, 8.5, 9.5, something like that. It'll be more than a touchdown favorite. And the over/under would probably be in the mid to high, or the high 40s, I would assume. I would guess. That's just initial off the top of my head right now. So. Again, interested to see that matchup. Again, encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, get all of these rapid recap analysis videos dropped directly in your feed. Tim and Steve do the Nebraska football show every Wednesday. Tim does Recruiting Blitz every Tuesday for home games, Mondays for away games, and Steve also has Black Shirt Breakdown with former Husker Jay Foreman. And then we have bold predictions every Thursday, which might be moving up a week given the Friday night matchup against Illinois. So for Tim Verghese, I'm Zack Carpenter. We'll catch you guys again next time.